Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? It's the Morgan Thomas Show, Friday edition, and it's our scouting report with intern Dixon. Welcome to the show, Dixon.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for being here.
Well, I'm excited to have you on, and we're going to be talking about all things Georgia Tech versus Clemson's coming up tomorrow afternoon. Well, really tomorrow at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And the Tigers are going to face off against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We're going to be doing this live today. I know this is kind of like your first live, so hopefully not too nervous for being live. We're on Facebook and YouTube right now, so if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, thank you so much for joining in. Give Dixon a shout tonight as we go through the game a little bit. Like I said, it's going to be our Georgia Tech scouting report. We're going to talk a little bit about Georgia Tech's current results and their record, and then go into what they did on their previous game against Louisville, because I think there's some things we can pull from that to learn a little bit of what Clemson's going to do and what they might do against Clemson. And then Dixon's going to tell us a little bit about some of their players and what to watch for coming up this weekend. But welcome to the show again. So are you still happy about where Clemson is as a whole, coming off a big win against Miami?
I am. I think that Clemson definitely proved a lot in this last game, proved that they could live up to the hype, went into Death Valley, knew what they had to do, took care of business, and did it in a dominant fashion, which I think was really good. Definitely looked like that we know they can go win national championships for sure.
Yeah, and they really improved on, I think, their secondary, their pass defense. DK, Andrew Booth are really kind of getting into their own again, getting kind of used to each other, used to the playing field, and used to the opponent, and really just dominating, I think, locking down not only the opponent's rushing attack, but also their passing attack. But let's get into Georgia Tech real quick, because we want to do this at like kind of a short lunchtime thing. So Georgia Tech, they started out pretty surprisingly with Jeff Sims as their starting quarterback. And I know you're going to talk a lot about Jeff Sims today, but you know, Jeff Sims came in. He originally was committed to Florida State, 4-star recruit, pretty good dual threat quarterback. Decided to decommit from Florida State and transfer to Georgia Tech. A lot of people, including Athlon Sports, believe that he would be a backup to kind of start out as he's a true freshman, and that James Graham, the sophomore, was going to kind of take over or continue to be the quarterback for Georgia Tech. However, what ended up happening was that he took over the starting job, and they went and traveled to Florida State, their first game of the season, and ended up beating Florida State that first game of the season, 16-13, which is a big shocker for me, because I actually had Georgia Tech still kind of trying to rebuild, trying to figure things out. I mean, you know, now we kind of know Florida State's, you know, they're having a lot of struggles. They're trying to figure out who their quarterback is. We know James Blackman, a guy that I really haven't been big on, so not a surprise there for sure. But then you've got Florida State. They won that game. They come out. I bet against them for Central Florida, and they hung with them a little bit, and then ended up later on in the game kind of letting that one go. Central Florida ended up winning that one. I also bet on them. I bet on them to win against Syracuse, but you know, there's the Carrier Dome factor, and they lost to Syracuse. Went up to Syracuse, traveled for their second away game this year, and lost that game by 17, 37-20. And then they surprised me again. So then I pick against them to pick Louisville to win, and they end up beating Louisville. Not only beating Louisville, but they were down by 1 point, 27-26 in the fourth quarter, and then end up scoring 20 points unanswered to win the game 46-27. So pretty shocking for sure. Louisville is on a downward spiral. To me, can't seem to tackle anyone. But when you look at their record, Georgia Tech meaning, when you look at their record, when you look at who they've beat and kind of the things they do, what are some things that stick out to you?
So they do have some wins on their schedule. They have some wins. They also have some losses, and some of those losses, if you watch those games, Georgia Tech made some mistakes. Their quarterback, Sims, he's thrown 8 interceptions this season. He's thrown 5 touchdowns. those are not great stats. If you can only throw 5 touchdowns and you throw 8 picks games, not looking real good. So you definitely got to clean up some of those mistakes if you're going in to play Clemson. And I think some of those mistakes are a lot of the reason Georgia Tech lost a couple of those games. Is just making stupid mistakes that they shouldn't have made. So I definitely think you're going to have to clean some of those up if you want a chance at Clemson.
And to your point, he had 8 interceptions, but didn't have any interceptions last game against Louisville, and they ended up winning. And Louisville, on the other hand, had 3 turnovers, this time not interceptions, this time 3 fumbles. And I think that was a big factor. Louisville actually, for the second game in a row, had more total yards, more first downs, and a longer time of possession and lost the game. But we're not really talking about Louisville, but we are talking about in the sense that Georgia Tech forced 3 fumbles against Louisville running when they were running the ball, and one on, I believe, two running the ball, one on special teams. So that's something that Clemson's going to have to be aware of and be careful of protecting the football. So what do you think Clemson will have success in against Georgia Tech?
I think that Clemson will definitely have some success running the ball. The Georgia Tech run defense, I mean, they look okay, but I don't think that they have the skill and the talent to be able to take down our entire running unit. You think of Travis Etienne in the game he had last week, racking up big numbers, had a great week running the ball. He was all over the field. He was running through the Miami defense. The Miami defense could not tackle him. I mean, we saw it all over the place. They were having trouble taking him down, and that's been the kind of the whole year is just that you can't tackle Travis Etienne. He's spinning out of tackles, juking people out, stuff like that. And then the passing game, I mean, if you think about Trevor Lawrence in the year he's had, no turnovers, I believe, in the air. I think he's had a couple fumbles. But he is definitely he's been throwing dimes all over the field, getting the ball to his favorite receivers, Amari Rodgers. He used Braden Galloway a couple times last week to get into the end zone. So I think definitely the running game will be important for Georgia Tech to stop, but I think the passing game is going to be just as difficult.
Now, do you feel like that there's anybody on Georgia Tech's defense that can stop Travis Etienne, or is it just kind of like, is there any way they can hold him back? What I mean, does Georgia Tech, in your mind, have any chance of slowing down Clemson at all? Like, if you're Jeff Collins, what are you telling your team?
To tackle the man. To tackle the man. I think that if I say one player to go after Travis Etienne, the one player is not going to get it done because you got to have multiple people to Travis Etienne to get that man down. So I think gang tackling, a term used in football, will definitely be important. Trying to get the entire defense to the ball as fast as possible because you look one way and you turn back around, Travis Etienne's beating you all the way down the sideline. So I think it'll be very important. I think that Georgia Tech needs to have some players that step up and take leadership on the defense, get them hyped up, and definitely come out and know that they gotta really work to be able to stop this electric Clemson offense.
And I think I'm going to say Quez Jackson, who's a linebacker, number 44, somebody to look out for. He's a junior, a true junior. Currently has 20 solo tackles and 1 interception and had a ton of tackles last game against Louisville. I also feel like Wesley Walker, I have him written down. He's actually a true freshman, but has 12 tackles and 2 passes defended this season. From Nashville, Tennessee, number 39. So they do have some guys that are kind of starting to step into their own. But I agree with you in the sense that it's going to be very difficult to contain Clemson's offense. Even with 3 turnovers, it would be very difficult for Georgia Tech to win. So that's kind of the unfortunate thing if you're Georgia Tech's defense. I think like you said, you have to consider who you're playing against, but also consider it as kind of a measuring stick of your current level of performance. So how well you do in this game, whether or not you win or lose, is a non-factor. It's really how well you do on every single play in each series and things like that, not so much the scoreboard. So I think if I'm Jeff Collins, I'm telling my defense, hey, don't worry so much about the scoreboard, but like you said, worry about the fundamentals, worry about tackling, worry about gang tackling together, and keep the ball in front of you as far as the passing game is concerned. Flip it on to Georgia Tech's offense. What weapons does Georgia Tech have against Clemson?
The quarterback, definitely their quarterback. Let's see here. I had it. So Jeff Sims, we saw him running the ball. He's running the ball all over defenses all year long. I think it will be imperative for Clemson to stop him because he is really he is run. Excuse me. He has the most rushing yards on the team, and he's the quarterback. So he's beating out his running backs. So he's got legs. He can run the ball, and he will run the ball over you. So it might be good that Clemson just came off a week where they had to face a true dual threat quarterback because they're turning around the next week, going to face another one. So it will definitely be good for them to be able to stop both Sims running the ball and him throwing the ball. Because even though he doesn't have great throwing stats, he has dropped some pretty good passes this season. So you definitely don't want to let that sneak up on you and catch you off guard.
And when I watch the Louisville game, I see a lot of it goes through Sims. So whatever Sims does, however he performs, if he has a good game, then the team's going to do well. They're going to be able to stay around. I don't think they're going to be able to stay around, say 14 points or anything like that. But like I said, maybe if you're Georgia Tech, you're not worried so much about the score as much as how you can build on the performance that you have and staying consistent, also protecting the football on the offensive side of the ball. Jeff Sims, like you said, very important because has 8 interceptions leading up into this game. And again, against Louisville had none. So maybe he can carry that momentum into Clemson. Now, I think it will be even more difficult against Clemson because their defense is way better than anything they've seen so far.
Sure.
But again, like you said, Jeff Sims, leading rusher. I've got Malachi Carter, who's their leading receiver. What I noticed from him is that he had the most success when there was a breakdown in coverage because of Sims. Not really your traditional type passing where they drop back and just wait. Sims is going to drop back and try to roll one way or another. He's going to try to use his feet, even if it's not intended to go past the line of scrimmage. He's going to try to use his feet to move to one side or the other to create an uneven balance on that side of the field, and then open up that side or open up a route for a wide receiver like Carter out there. Again, I still think it's going to be difficult for Georgia Tech to have any success. But I got Jalen Camp, wide receiver, senior, Malachi Carter, a junior, a guy I wrote down, and then you've got your 2 running backs that they've been using this year, Jahmyr Gibbs and Dante Smith. You're going to hear those names a lot, 28, 21, and 15, and then obviously Sims, who is number 10 on the team. So be looking out as a Clemson fan for those players, see how they do, see how Clemson contains them. I think Clemson's defensive front is going to be able to have just as much success as containing anybody as they do against Georgia Tech. The great thing is that Clemson just seems to be getting that much better. Clemson's football power index, according to ESPN, percentage to win or matchup predictor, 95.5% chance to win this game. They have 3 games that are kind of a lull. I wouldn't necessarily say a lull because they can always jump on you. You got away game, Atlanta, Georgia Tech, then Syracuse, then Boston College at home, and then they travel to Notre Dame, who is currently ranked in the top 5. So that's one of those games that fans are waiting for, looking forward to seeing. But I think that Clemson kind of has a good couple of games coming up here late October, early November to kind of get ready for that big matchup, that big away game. We got people in the chat saying, I hope Potter's confidence hasn't been adversely affected by last week's blocks. Well, that's got to be a concern there too. I don't think it's going to be a factor or a concern as far as the scoreboard is concerned, right? I think you would agree.
Sure. Yeah, I think it will definitely be good for him to get his enthusiasm and his courage back up because, you come off a game where you had 2 field goals knocked down, you're not going to feel very good. And Dabo Sweeney voiced that too after the game. So it will definitely be good for him to get back into the groove. I don't think he missed a single PAT, which was good, but definitely the field goal game. And I'm sure Clemson has been working on that this week. So I definitely think it'd be good for him to get back out there and to give it another shot. Because we all know he's got the foot. We all know he's a good kicker. He just didn't have a great week, and everybody doesn't have good weeks. So that's good.
And just some total stats for you. Clemson right now, 495.5 total yards on offense, 279.8 on defense allowed. Georgia Tech, however, 453 on total yards on offense. So they definitely can move the ball on offense. The defense part is the struggle there. 448.8 yards allowed on defense. Not only that, 31.5 points per game allowed and 25.8 scored. So they're not in the not good ratio there for having a winning record at the end of this season. Clemson, on the other hand, outscoring opponents 42-13. Right now, the score or the spread as of Friday at 1 o'clock almost, Clemson minus 27. So you're looking at just a little 1 point under 4 touchdowns. What do you got?
I think Clemson covers it. I think they have no difficulty covering it. As we've said, I think that the offense is going to absolutely make Georgia Tech's defense look bad. Clemson's defense we saw last week was lights out. I mean, they shut down the Miami offense that we all thought was to be one of the best in the country with their amazing quarterback, Derek King. I definitely think that Georgia Tech is going to have a lot of problems on both sides of the ball, and Clemson's going to take advantage of those and absolutely blow Georgia Tech out.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree as well. I'm picking Clemson to cover the spread this weekend, so I hope you enjoy the games coming up this weekend. There's obviously Clemson starting out at noon and then ending the night with Georgia versus Alabama, which will be an exciting one as well. So all things are good when college football is being played, and I look forward to the games coming up this weekend. Is the Alabama-Georgia game your game that you're looking forward to outside of Clemson?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you got number 2 and number 3 going at it. So it will definitely be a fun one to watch. A lot of concerns around the Alabama defense after last week, but I think Nick Saban's sick, I guess. So his defensive coordinator will definitely have been getting their guys ready for that to go against that Georgia offense that we all know is so good. So it will definitely be a fun one to watch.
And I have rumors still saying that he's going to come in a hazmat suit and sit up in the box because it's a home game. He's still allowed to do that. So he might be in all yellow and not wearing a Crimson Tide, but he may come in with the full suit looking like Spaceman. But, I also feel like that Alabama will come away with a win in that game as well. I think they have a better quarterback in Mac Jones, and I think that Nick Saban will definitely get the defense corrected or adjusted in time, especially since it's being a home game. I think that's important to a factor even during COVID, with the time, not being a full stadium. I still think it's a factor. Well, Dixon, got to get out of here. It's the end of lunchtime, our little lunchtime scouting report. I hope you have a good rest of your week and weekend and enjoy the football games. So I appreciate you coming on again.
All right. I'm glad to be here. We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks again, fans, for joining us for this Friday afternoon scouting report with Georgia Tech. You can check out our normal show over on Monday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you